I'd like to show you why knowing your why is the start of your journey. Without a strong why, it can be so difficult to reach your maximum potential. My name is Dr. Jason Balara, and every week I meet with real estate investors and mindset specialists that are taking action in order to build a life according to their own terms. We will break down what drives successful people and allows them to achieve at such a high level. If you are a professional wanting to break through, or simply someone that wants to hear an inspiring story, the Know Your Why podcast is made for you. Hi, everyone. I'm Jason Balara, and this is the Know Your Why podcast. Today, I'm here with Julio Monagas. Julio, I just want to say, first of all, thank you for coming on the show today. I really appreciate you taking the time out. We just talked with, it's a Saturday morning for us, and I really appreciate you coming and talking to me right now. So thank you very much.
Yeah, of course, man. Yeah, it's that best way to get your Saturday morning started. Yeah, no, thank you for having me. Thank you for reaching out. And yeah, I'm happy to have a good conversation today. So
yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Well, with that, why don't we just start with you kind of telling us about yourself? Tell us your background, kind of where you came from, what brought you into real estate, and we'll dig into whatever is exciting in the conversation.
Yeah. I'll go back a little bit. So I'm an immigrant. I was born in Venezuela, which is in South America. For some of you out there that don't know where that is. So I immigrated here when I was 13, going on 14. It was basically as simple as my dad. My dad ended up getting transferred to the U.S. It's what he always wanted, and he just asked me, "Do you want to come for a year and learn English?" And I was like, "Sure, I'll do it." Because, it's the world language. And so it's important for anything to know English. So anyway, so I came right as freshman year was starting. So it was a big challenge. One, I didn't know any English. Two, I had to start from scratch again. Like I didn't have any friends or anything. So like my first 2 years of high school, I didn't have any friends. I couldn't speak the language, so that was a barrier. So that was a challenge in itself. And then fast forward, actually 2 years into our living here, my dad lost his job, and what that meant was that I came here on a visa, an extension of his visa, and when he lost his job, I lost my visa, and so that means that we became undocumented. And so for the longest time, actually, my high school friends that have become my lifelong friends, they didn't know about it. And I was embarrassed to say anything because, there's a stigma behind being, undocumented or illegal. So for the longest time, they asked me, why am I not driving? Why am I not getting a driver's license? And I would just come up with whatever excuse I could come up with. So for the next, I think it was about 6 years, I couldn't work. I couldn't go to college either because if I wanted to go to a big college, I didn't have the money. My dad didn't have the money, wouldn't have the money to pay for it. And I couldn't get financial aid. The only thing that I could do once I graduated from high school was I could go to a community college because Texas had a grant. I can't remember the name of the grant anymore, but they would pay for some of your school. And community college here in Texas is super cheap. So did that. Finally, I got my papers in order. I became a citizen. And then it just kind of went on from there. I got involved in healthcare. I thought that's what I wanted to do. I worked really, really hard to get my doctorate in physical therapy, which I did. And it's so funny. I was in healthcare for, I guess, 10, 11 years. And then 5 years into my physical therapy career, it took me that long to realize that this isn't what I want to do. And it all hit me one day. I started working at a nursing home. And I don't know if you've ever been to a nursing home, but it can be a pretty depressing place. And anyway, so it just hit me that I was having a conversation with an old timer, and I would just ask him, about where you've been, where you travel, and the common theme amongst like all the people there, I wish I could have done this. I wish I could have done that. I wish. And that just started to hit me. And I'm like, I'm like, I don't want to get to 80, 85, and then hopefully my kids don't put me in a home. But if they do, at least I want to have all these stories, things that I've done, things that, places that I've traveled, friends that I've had, and accomplishments. And so that's what led me to the path into real estate and creating my own future and my own life. So that's kind of the summary.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think, and I've interviewed other people that have immigrated to the US and on here, and it's really a fascinating story. And I think, a story of hope and also difficulty, right? Like you got here and your dad lost his job, and that creates a lot of problems. And especially from you were a child at the time. And it's like, from your perspective, it's probably hard to understand. You're like you said, you're hiding it from your friends. That's I think a tough position to be in, but maybe what it does is it helps, if you look at, from the positive side, maybe create some of that resourcefulness, some of that, work ethic and all of that. And so I also just sort of, I mean, I agree. I have spent some time in nursing homes. My grandmother has been sort of in and out, and I've visited her there. Super depressing place, right? It's like, she didn't want to be there. Most of the people don't want to be there. I think it'd be a hard place to work. And so I can see why that would be, I don't know, drive you to have some of these eye-opening moments, asking those questions and stuff like that, and realizing you wanted something bigger. So when you did that, when you had that realization, how did you, I guess, first question is, how did you then say, okay, well, real estate's the way to make that happen? What kind of made that, pop that into your head?
So it wasn't real estate at first. And I think that, I'm sure the people that come on your podcast probably have the same sort of path into how do I become financially free, right? Because that's what we all want. And not necessarily, well, financially, but then also time freedom. But it all started, so same thing, rich dad, poor dad. But then I found, I don't know if you heard of Mr. Money Mustache.
I have heard of, yeah, I haven't really checked it out, but I definitely have heard of that.
So I stumbled upon his blog. Don't ask me, I think this was back in 2015, 2016. Excuse me. And it was all about becoming financially free. But his way to go about it, and that whole the FIRE movement, right? The whole financially independent, retire early. It's that tribe, and it was all about becoming very restrictive and saving every penny and cutting down your expenses to an extreme, which is fine. Nothing wrong with it, because obviously a lot of people become very free from that. So I did that for a couple of years, and I was like, man, I can be very impatient. And so I was like, there's got to be another way. And I found bigger pockets. So I'm sure, as a lot of people do. And so I just went down that rabbit hole. But what truly has changed my life in the last 2.5 years is, and my friend says this, and which is who I'm about to talk about. So it's not the how, but the who. And so I met Diego Corzo, and I don't know if you heard of him, but basically I was traveling with my healthcare job. That is one of the perks of being a healthcare worker, that you can actually take contracts in different states. Right. And if you're single, no kids, I mean, it's a perfect thing to do. So anyways, I decided that I wanted to come back to Austin and settle down, because my family lives here. I'm from here. And on the way, it's so crazy. On the way back, driving back all the way from Oregon, I'm listening to Bigger Pockets nonstop, and I stumble upon his podcast, his episode. And I don't know if you heard his story, but it's very similar to mine, like the struggles and being an immigrant and being undocumented. Unfortunately for him, he's still technically undocumented, which, yeah, anyways, but that's a whole nother conversation. But so I reached out to him. I was like, I'm going to Austin. I'm like, this is me in a way, like, in like all the things that he's done. Like, if he can do it, I can do it. And it wasn't like envy. It was just more like, man, somebody can do it. That means I can do it. Yeah. And I'm like, please, like, show me the way in a way, So I called him. He said, yeah, let's go meet for coffee. And then, I mean, the rest is history. Like, having that person and that mentor, it's been unbelievable. So that's what kind of led me to the path. I started house hacking and I wanted to buy rentals. And then I realized that, I kind of saw, he's a realtor. So I saw his business and the time that he has. And I was like, man, maybe I'll give this realtor thing a try. So I looked into it and I just jumped in it. And it's been the last two and a half years has been amazing. Just because of the who, not necessarily the how. So
yeah. Have you read Who Not How?
I actually haven't. No.
It's phenomenal. I'm like 3/4 of the way through it right now, because I kept hearing people talk about it, and I am like that. Like I've always been the DIY guy, right? So it's been very hard for me to like figure out how to delegate and all of that. But the book is great and like gives a lot of real life examples that you're like, some of them I'm like, I thought about that, but that just seems like a ridiculous thing to have someone else do. But it's like, there's some amazing stuff in there anyway. So I would definitely check it out. It's a good one, even listen to audiobook if you're driving around or whatever. But I wanted to touch on one of the things you said that I think is really so important for people, because we this is a real estate inspired podcast, but honestly, I think the mindset side of this is so important. So to me, I don't know. That's the stuff I enjoy talking about, right? It's like we can talk about people's numbers and unit counts and all of that, but like what's really cool is the thought process and how you listen to his podcast, and instead of thinking, oh, that guy's lucky, I wish I was him, right? You went ahead and you did something about it. You didn't look at it from an envy standpoint. You didn't look at it like you were a victim. You looked at it like, well, he's doing it, and his story sounds like mine. Like, I'm going to do it, right? I'm going to call him. I'm going to do, you know what I mean? And it's just that so many people, whatever, maybe they see on social media and they're like, yeah, good for that guy, he's rich. But it's like, not, instead of thinking like, okay, that looks like a cool life, how do I get there? And but you did that. I mean, you took action, you connected with him, and sort of use that to help better your life. And so I think that's a really cool and important point that I didn't want to just sort of glaze over. You said specifically, like, you didn't listen to that with envy, and I think that's exactly it. It's like, don't try to use these as positives. So so then, I mean, tell me about sort of the transition from healthcare. How has that gone for you?
Man, so I bought my first house hack. He helped me buy it. It was a duplex. It was a live-in rehab. So I was in a construction zone for an entire year. It was quite the experience. Honestly, if anybody's looking to invest in real estate and they want to be, somewhat active, I honestly think that was probably one of the best experiences I've had, because not only was it hard, but I learned so much, one, about myself, and then also about, how to handle rehab costs, what things cost, how to fix things. Even before this, I was not handy whatsoever, but I just jumped in it. I was super excited, but I had no idea. I remember when I bought sorry, I know I'm like going around your question, but just real quick, when I bought the duplex, I told my girlfriend, I was like, it had popcorn ceilings. And I was like, oh yeah, we can get this done this weekend. I'll just take off a couple of days from work and we'll get it. No, it took us 3 weeks to get the popcorn off. So anyway, so that gives you an idea of how like little I knew. But it was amazing. Like, I still have that duplex, and it's surprisingly, it's cash flowing here in Austin, which is unheard of. Great experience. So, but yeah, healthcare to real estate. So I did that. I did the duplex, and I bought a couple more properties here in Austin. But then, this mindset was shifting, right? I mean, I was getting around people that were in the same like-minded and the same goals and the same aspirations of becoming more, not necessarily more money, but just becoming more, right? Yeah. As a whole, as a person. And so I was like, I want to get to a certain income, and how do I do that? My job in healthcare, and I don't know what your profession is, but you hit a ceiling. Like, unless I move up the ladder in some organization for 15, 20 years, I'm not going to make more money. And the reason why I wanted to make more money, obviously, it's because it allowed me to invest and have that time back. And so I was thinking of ideas like, what can I do? And so that's when the whole realtor thing came up. And I'm like, well, income is unlimited. The more I hustle, the more money I can make, and then reinvest that into assets. And so, so 2021, I decided to become licensed. I did it all back to back. I got licensed in 7 weeks, passed the test my first try, and boom, I was off to the races. As any realtor would tell you, it's really hard to get your first deal or that first year. It's very challenging. And so I got licensed in March, April of 2021. And for the next 10, 11 months, I was working, which is true. You cannot be a realtor part-time. If you want to take this seriously, you cannot be a realtor part-time. So yes, I was part-time because I still have my full-time job, but I was putting all my effort, even nights and weekends, to the realtor. And then I was working my full-time job. The cool thing about working at a nursing home is that it can be flexible, meaning you can start early. I'm a morning person, so I would get to work at 7. I would be out by like 3:30, 4 o'clock, and then it was realtor. But what ended up happening is that I started doing pretty good, and I was not expecting it. My first 6 months, that's when things started rolling, and I was literally taking calls in the nursing home. My boss at the time, she was really cool, but she was starting to get mad at me because I would be with a patient and I would tell the patient, like, here, I'll be right back. I got to take this phone call. And she started to notice this. She was like, hey, you can't do this here. Like, you got to, when you're here, you focus on your job. And then, so it started to interfere with my job. And it's true, you still want to dedicate time to these people in the nursing home and do a good job. And so, I at times I would run into empty patients' room and take phone calls, and it was a mess. And so it started taking off, and then I realized, like, I got to make the jump. I was not expecting to make the jump that quick. I planned for 2 years, and then I ended up making the jump in 11 months. And so I've been a full-time real estate agent now for 3.5 months, and right now have 16 homes under contract. And yeah, I mean, I did not expect it to happen that fast. I'm very, very lucky. Yeah, that's kind of how that transition went.
Yeah. I mean, that's phenomenal. And I, you said didn't know what my profession is. I'm actually a veterinary surgeon, so I am in the healthcare world as well. And I totally understand a lot of the points that you made there. I mean, one being just the scalability of your income in that. Now, as a veterinarian, especially as a veterinary specialist, in a lot of cases, maybe people don't know this, there's some production basis to what you get paid. And so, yes, if I do more surgery, I make more money. The problem with that is you're still limited by time, and you're limited by not just your time, you're limited by the technical staff's time. So like my staff is hugely important to what I do. Like I can't do it alone. I can't do the surgery and also the anesthesia and so it's like it's impossible to just say, okay, I'm going to work, 23 hours a day. Like you can't do it because you've got to rely on other people. And so you're in a lot of ways limited by your own time, but as much as by whatever, hospital you might work for's resources, essentially. And so I think realizing that whatever your profession is, realizing, there are certain professions that you're in more control of your income because it's truly about production, like the sales type of industry, real estate, being a realtor, that if you have, if you sell more houses, you make more money. It just, kind of, so however amount you're willing to hustle, I think is contributes to your income. The other thing that I imagine you're aware of as becoming a realtor is now you get real estate professional status. which will very much help you on the tax side of things, right? So you can make more money, and then you can figure out ways by investing passively to essentially decrease the amount of taxes that you have to pay. And I'm not an accountant, but because of my career and now my journey into real estate, I've done a lot of looking into this part of it and trying to figure out how I can establish real estate professional status. But I know for a fact that, being a realtor, that gets you there. So you could really, hustle, sort of be as active as a realtor as you want. You'll make a lot of income that way. And then now you can take that, and as you said, sort of use that to invest and create now passive losses for yourself. And it really kind of use one to feed the other, basically.
Right.
So have you done that? Have you been doing any investing as well? Kind of, I know you have your duplex. What else have you done from an investment standpoint?
So I have the duplex, and then I have two. So my portfolio, and then I'm sure you probably interview people that I have the duplex and then two single family homes here in Austin. The cool thing about the two single family homes is that this is even before I became a realtor, and I was trying to find ways to invest. And this was in 2020. Towards the end of 2020, we started to notice here in Austin that new construction was appreciating rapidly. I mean, and I'm telling you, in a matter of 3 to 4 months, the home would be worth another $50,000. So what I would do after I would get off, this is before deciding to become licensed, I would get off work, and then I would just drive all around Austin, try to find new construction that was on the very first phase, because that was the key. You would have to buy the home in the first phase. So then, because usually communities have 4 or 5 phases. And so if you buy the home in that first phase, you get that early bird pricing, so to speak.
Right.
And then by the time the community's done, you have $100,000 to $150,000 worth of equity. And so I was kind of like a what do they call the wholesalers who use people, bird dogs?
Bird dogs. Yeah.
Yeah. Bird dogs. So I was a bird dog for whoever, right? And at this point, it was kind of for Diego, because Diego had clients, and he was like, "Yeah, man," or he didn't even tell me. I just kind of went out, and then I would just tell him, "Hey, this community's popping up," and then he would put his clients in it. So that's how I was able to get this home, and then the other single family home. We literally paid, which is crazy to think about in Austin now. One was sold for $285,000, and now it's worth $500,000. And then, and this is market value, right? Which can go anywhere, and then this one was bought for $300,000, and then it's appraised at $430,000. So it goes to show you that, I guess it's being at the right place at the right time, right? But then also taking advantage of those opportunities when they're there. So yeah, I mean, I would drive every weekend, and after work, just seeing who's coming in, when are they coming in, and building relationships with the builders too, with the salespeople, so that and then that has changed. That's not here anymore. But anyways, that's how I was able to get 2 more in my portfolio. But right now, I've decided to grow my business as a realtor first. I do want to invest, and I'm itching to invest, but I'm like, no, just stay focused. The focus right now is to grow this business first. And then I will jump back into investing. And as far as what asset class, I mean, I don't know, obviously, it could be multifamily, commercial, Airbnb, self-storage. I haven't decided, but definitely something bigger, not so much single family, something bigger that can give me a little bit more income and a little bit more flexibility. So,
yeah. No, it makes total sense. I mean, kind of, if you're in growth phase, you're going to be kind of taking whatever extra money you have in building the business back out with marketing and things like that. So, I mean, it's a great plan. And I think, again, here's a thing that you mentioned that I think a lot of people just wouldn't have done this, but you found opportunity by saying, I'm going to go drive around to these, where these communities are popping up, and
I mean, they're popping up all around Austin, especially even as you said, like you can't really find that anymore because the builders are onto it. They're not going to give you that early bird discount, but you took that chance and sort of made some wins there because of that and helped other people. And it's just a thing that, if you're willing to just do a little bit of that extra work, you can create yourself so much opportunity there. So I think it's another great point that I think I didn't want to pass that by. So I mean that's a very cool story. I love kind of that whole transition, but really what I love is just like your mindset throughout it all. That it's just always been about, okay, I'm going to do the things that for whatever reason other people don't do, and you're just gonna, and it has obviously brought you success and will continue to just bring you more and more success. I think sticking with that.
And I think, I mean, I would say, and since you mentioned a mindset, and I think that's been the biggest change too. I think I'm a huge fan of Jim Rohn, and I'm sure people listening to the podcast here are as well. And I'm paraphrasing his quote, but it's, in one of his many talks, he talks about, it's not about becoming a millionaire and becoming rich. It's about the person that you're becoming in the process to accomplish that goal. And so, in another one of his quotes, it doesn't happen by chance, but it happens by change. And so I've noticed that in order for me to get to where I want to be, it starts with that, like you said, with the mindset and obviously the work as well. But
right.
In sales, it's so easy to either get complacent because you're making a ton of money. But then that money could be gone like that, right? I mean, that funnel could just dry up so quickly. Mm-hmm. But then it's also how to stay level-headed because, man, you can have those lows and obviously the highs, but it's how to not get really, too low to where you get in a hole and then you can't crawl out of it. So it's been so, and I'm obviously constantly learning it. It's just so, I get it why I never knew why salespeople in general, they were either, they were always so happy and so positive, and it's because you have to be, right? I mean, and not the fake positive happy, like, in front of people, but you have to become a new person, right? You have to become this, a new mindset, a new person that will allow you to earn more income and earn more time for yourself and your family. So yeah, it's a process. It truly is. And also how long it takes too. I mean, I'm very impatient and I'm realized that this isn't going to happen overnight. So you always have to have that long-term mentality that it's probably going to take at least 10 years to get to that point. So,
yeah. Well, and I think, your impatience, as you put it, is, and I have that same feeling, is like you, but I think that impatience is really, that's drive, that's ambition, that's, kind of that's the reason why you didn't just, kind of sit around and stay in a job that you weren't passionate about, right? It's just, right. You realized, hey, there's something better for me. And I think it's Elon Musk that says, take your 10-year plan and see if you can achieve it in 6 months. Right. And he's like, you won't, but you'll be way far ahead of where you would have been if you had said, I'm going to take 10 years to do it. So it's kind of that impatience, I think, can work in your favor as long as you're level head about it, like you said. It's I think the point about, kind of the highs and lows of a sales-based or commission-based job is you have to be careful about, yes, when it's low, you can't get down on it, but also when it's high, you kind of can't allow yourself to believe that it's always going to be this way. And then, raise your lifestyle to match that while you're trying to grow, kind of as an investor. So it's like, if you had all these sales, you're doing great as a realtor and you're like, okay, now I'm going to buy fancy cars and houses and all of this. I'm just going to spend it all. that's not really gonna achieve your goal. That's not gonna help you get to the point of financial and time freedom. So all really good thoughts. And I think, very much a, kind of a level-headed, smart approach to doing this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Julio, let's switch gears a little bit. Let me ask you the questions that I like to ask every guest. And the first one is based on the name of the show being Know Your Why. So what is your why? What drives you? What, kind of, we've talked a lot about, what your mindset is, but usually there's something kind of behind that sort of little nagging thing that keeps pushing you.
I just got chills because, so number one, there's two things. Number one, and I mean, it's my parents. And just because, sorry. Don't
be sorry.
being immigrants, being adult immigrants, I was a teenager, so it's a lot easier. I mean, I have no excuses whatsoever. And some people don't believe me that I'm an immigrant because sometimes my accent doesn't come out. But anyways, but the fact that they were adults and they had a life in another country and family and friends, and they gave all that up for me and my sister. I mean, that's enough why right there to do it for them. Because I mean, I just can't imagine. My mom was a business owner, had a thriving business, a restaurant, 2 restaurants. And this is like later on in her life, because we, early on in life, we struggle quite a bit, but then the fact that she gave that up and came to another country to struggle again, because she knows English, but very broken. She had to clean houses, man. And so that, anyway, so that's my big why. And then my second why, man, it's just because I feel like those 6 years that I was undocumented, I kind of lost time, so to speak. And so it's more of like a chip on my shoulder, like I'm catching up, so to speak. And in a way, I want to prove it to myself. And so, yeah, I would say those are my big 2 whys. My family, obviously, it's always number one. And then just I still want to do so much more, because I felt like and it was out of my control, but I felt like I lost 5 to 6 years in a way that that I could have done other things, but that's in the past. Right. But that still drives me, so. Yeah.
Well, first of all, don't ever be sorry for being having passion and emotion about, especially something like that. Like that's it. Like that's exactly why I started this podcast. Why I love these conversations is because I want to know, what people are passionate about, what moves them. And I think when people hear this about you and, they're a prospective client or whatever it is, like when they hear this story, like knowing your connection to what you're doing and your why, like to me, that means, I would have then confidence in you, like, hey, this means something to him. I'm not, so anyway, but I think that that whole, loss of time and everything like that, I think that it's letting those things drive you and not eat you up, right? Like letting those things drive you and not being the victim about it, right? Like everybody has things, like, I guess, nobody had a perfect life. So everybody has things. Maybe some people had harder things than others, but you look at, your parents are a perfect example. Like they gave up something that was probably pretty good to go and try and create something better, right? For themselves, for you. And so it's just about, it's taking those lessons and those challenging times and I guess making them mean something really is kind of how I think it should work, right? Like use those things to your advantage. Yeah. Second question for you. Tell us something about yourself that maybe isn't common knowledge, special skill, hobby, anything that you're comfortable sharing.
Oh man. That's why, like, when talking about yourself, I mean, I can't think of anything. I love I mean, I don't know if many people love this, but I love taking a 2 to 3 night hiking trip, camping trip with just only what I need on my back, and then just get lost in the woods and the mountains, and then come back out smelly, hungry, and but just the kind of the struggle of that in a way. Some people are like, I wouldn't, I wouldn't. And as I'm getting older, it's getting harder. But I would say that's one of the things that people are like, you do that for fun. And so, and I'm glad that I found someone that actually likes that. My girlfriend actually likes doing that too. She doesn't like the way I smell when I come out of it. But just I guess it's just a very raw feeling of, I mean, you bring your cell phone, but you have no signal. You can only pack a certain amount of food. You only have your tent and your sleeping bag, and then there's nothing around you, right? It's just nature and yourself. And I would say that it's kind of, I guess, I know it's not unique because I know a lot of people do it, but it's one of the things that brings me a lot of joy and happiness. And sometimes I need it to reset myself. Yeah, I would say that.
Yeah, I love that too. I have let life get in the way and not done it as much as I did when I was younger. I really do enjoy that. Just like I don't like camping. I don't want to go just go to a campsite and sleep in a tent for what seems to me like no reason. But when there's that hike involved and you're, really kind of, it is a chance to disconnect. It's a chance to, put in some work, both mentally and physically. I totally understand where you're coming from on that. I think it's a great thing.
I will say, I don't know how you are, but I'm in my mid-30s and it's getting harder, man. Sleeping on that sleeping pad and sleeping bag.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Man. Well, yeah, I do think about, because my kids are very young. My oldest son is just 3. And so and I'm 47. So yeah, I think it would be hard on me at this point to do it, but I still really want to get to do it with them, like when they get a little bit older. So I'll suck it up. I'll bring some leave and we'll go for at least an overnight. I think it'll be a blast. When people hear this and they want to connect with you, what's the best way to reach you?
Best way, it's Instagram. It's Julio _Monagas Realtor. It's really the best way. I'm pretty active on Instagram. So yeah.
Okay, good. Well, and we'll put that in the show notes so people can get you. Final question, Julio. What piece of advice would you give to someone who's, I always say, I sort of say this, piece of advice for someone starting out. What I would leave to you, and I sort of started leaving to the guests, is you can finish the question. Starting out, whether that's starting out as an immigrant in the US or starting out in real estate, whatever you feel passionate about and you want to kind of use as the trailing end to that question, it's opened up to you.
I will say, yes, starting out, whether it's a new career, kind of like I did, or, going into a whole new country and having to learn the language. Man, I would say I know it sounds cheesy, but it's, just hang on. It's the biggest thing. And it does get better. You have to put in the work, right? In anything, and get educated. And, but I would say, one, don't be afraid to take chances, and challenge yourself. Right. I would say if anybody has that fire inside, I know I can do more, and not more as in like, because right now we're in this hustle mentality, right? Like you have to do more, you have to work more. No, just like, if you want more for yourself, if you want to be a carpenter, or if you want to be, if you want to paint or whatever, like just do it, right? Just do it. And what's the worst that could happen, right? You just suck at it and then you go back to your other job. But at the beginning of the podcast, what I said, like, I meet all these old timers and they all say, I wish I could have done this. I wish I could have done that. So basically, do you want to, at 85, 90 years old, do you want to live with regret, or do you want to live with like, man, I'm glad I did that. I sucked at it, but I'm glad I did it. And now I have a story. So I would say if you want more and you have that, you just know it, you just feel it inside of you, just put yourself out there and see what happens. So,
yeah, it's great. You just have to wanting more, doing more. You're right. Sometimes that hustle, and I think to an extent, hustle is still really important, like in the sense that you need to work hard, but I think it maybe it's gotten almost overused, and people associate it with it. You've got to work, every hour of every day to have any success or any financial freedom. And it's not true. You need to educate yourself and you need to be persistent, but it doesn't have to be this like thing that just drives you into the ground. It's really, but if it is something you want, something, you're looking for more for yourself, and that doesn't have to mean money. You're looking for more experiences. You're looking for more time. You're looking for more, relationships, whatever the more is, there's a way to get it. And don't just, sit back and think it can't happen. I think is kind of the point, is that just go after it. Like, and you have demonstrated in your story time and time again that you've done that, and you've approached life with that mentality. So I love it. I think it's really great advice, but more than just saying it, like you're living it, you're doing it. So people can use that as inspiration. So thank you, Julio, for coming on. I really appreciate having you. I appreciate you sharing your story. It's been a great conversation.
I like the Batman logo, man. That's my favorite superhero growing up.
I'm a big superhero fan. You can see there's like, Superman up there, Batman. This little thing is from my kids. It's like, it all has Marvel characters. My son's name is Logan after Wolverine. So cool. It's obviously a big component of our lives. I really enjoy it. So
Awesome.
I figure might as well have things in the office that are meaningful. But
that's what this is. Camping up in Yosemite, so I mean, it goes to show you. Yeah, so of course, show what you like. So
yep. I love Yosemite. That's one of the places that I have long ago been and can't wait to go back again with the kids. But yeah, again, really thank you very much for coming on. And people listening, if you like this episode, please go ahead and leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. That helps us reach more people and kind of get this message out there that, really you can have more for yourself. You can have more for your family. It is for sure. The opportunity is there. So thank you for sharing your story and inspiring us all, Julio.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you, Jason.
All right, we'll go ahead and sign off.
I'd like to show you why knowing your why is the start of your journey. Without a strong why, it can be so difficult to reach your maximum potential. My name is Dr. Jason Balara, and every week I meet with real estate investors and mindset specialists that are taking action in order to build a life according to their own terms. We will break down what drives successful people and allows them to achieve at such a high level. If you are a professional wanting to break through, or simply someone that wants to hear an inspiring story, the Know Your Why podcast is made for you.